Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to AM Impact on Your Health. AM Impact on Your Health, where every day our goal is to have you learn at least one thing to help you live better and longer. AM Impact on Your Health is heard each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9 o'clock. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney, and I'm with you each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9. And Impact on Your Health, where each day you'll find current medical news, knowledgeable guests, fast-ending health topics, and of course, where we do encourage you to call in to join in. Today, our intended guest, Dr. Lee Cowden, couldn't seem to connect with him yesterday. I will tell you this, I will find that gentleman. Evidently, we're going to switch some gears today. You'll see what I mean. Dr. Lee Cowden talking about energy therapies will be postponed today. We'll move into a new arena. Well, actually, it's an old arena with some new twists. You'll see what I mean as this morning goes on. But I promise to report back to you when Dr. Lee Cowden is available to describe his book entitled Energy Therapies. It just doesn't look like it's going to be today. So I'm going to be talking about the Watergate of eye care. I'll fill in some blanks about that in a minute, but truly labeled the Watergate of eye care was brought to our attention a while back by Dr. Ed Condrat. Now, I'll give you the whole background story before I bring those points to you today. Now, let's see how the rest of this month is shaping up, folks. On, tomorrow night, a meeting, extraordinary meeting up there at the Freedom of Choice and Cancer Therapy Group. This group has been meeting for 40 years. They're having their 40th anniversary meeting on Thursday night up at the Days Inn, just south of Butler on the right side there at 7 o'clock. It's going to be a fantastic event, a lot of celebration, and David and Faith are going to be the speakers on the agenda. So once again, head on up the road, get on up to Route 8, and enjoy your evening, the 40th anniversary meeting of the Freedom of Choice and Cancer Therapy Group. It's just that one return now back to Butler, and then from what I understand, the future meetings will be held back in the Oakmont area. At least that's my understanding now. I'll fill you in as I learn more. On Friday, some special Beresha stuff coming up, a big meeting coming up here the first couple weeks of June. We'll talk about that on Friday, and we will open it up to you. Now, we're heading into a holiday weekend, and it's a Memorial Day weekend. Monday, we will not be doing a live show. But to piggyback off of what I'm talking about today, I discovered a show, and I remembered it very, very vividly, but I hadn't gone back and listened to it since we did the show way back on December 17th of 2014. It was Dr. Ed Condrat coming aboard on that day after just having had a study put in his hands that he then referred to as the Watergate of eye care. We're doing so much with eyes and eye treatment and the like. The topic of eyes comes up frequently here on air, certainly happening in my office, a lot of activities. Today, as a matter of fact, is day number 3. Day 3 in the first cataract clinic to be held in Western Pennsylvania. And I'll be happy to share the results. I think are going to be fantastic. But better not speak out of turn. I'll wait until Thursday when we bring it to a conclusion. And I'll report back to you on Friday, at least preliminarily, how that all went. I know many of you are sitting back and saying, well, let's see how that first group does. So I'll let you wait, and I'll give you an idea of how the first group of the cataract patients did with the cataract clinic. I swear, I think it's going to just turn out to be a wonderful series of modalities to help alleviate the issue of cataracts. So on Monday, we're going to repeat the show entitled The Watergate of Eye Care that I dug out over this past weekend and listened to again, and I thought, wow, I got to bring that one back to you. And so we'll be talking about it today, and I'll be repeating the show on Monday. If you have any eye issues, especially if you have macular degeneration, you don't want to miss the show as we did it back then on December 17th, and I'll check in with you when we return back here in person on Wednesday. Wednesday the 27th is going to be a day shared with Mike Legal. Mike is the head and CEO of the group entitled First Alternatives, and works with a Vasia company. It's one of the two companies that we feel has a product that we can get behind in the realm of microcurrent. This is not a frequency-specific type of microcurrent device. It has its own advantages for its own uses, and we'll talk about that with Mike on the 27th. As we peer into the month of June, I can tell you a couple things right now. Susan Smith-Jones is going to be our guest on the 10th. The gunslinger, Dr. David Minkoff, on the 17th, talking about Lyme's disease, his treatment of it. We're doing our next eye protocol on June 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. And then just inked the other day, Strabane Trails Village at 2:30, a presentation on eye and eye diseases on June 30th, way into the future. So that's how it shapes up. I'll be filling in on some other things as the morning moves on. Now, I think we have a knock on the door. Come on, the store. Hello. Welcome aboard. What's on your mind?
Hey, Doc. What's going on?
It's Danville. I knew you were out there, Danville. What's going on with you, Danville?
Well, I was going to kind of make a joke, but it's really not funny. My eyes go blurry all the time, except it's because of 6 kids. No, I'm kidding. Hey, I got a guy, a friend of mine, actually. He's trying to sell me a water filter now. It's a water filter. It's a Kangen water filter, alkaline. Now, as I understand it, alkalized water is not something you want to do intentionally. There's a lot of things. Have you heard that? The alkalinity of water and acidic and all this?
No, actually, by the way, I'm familiar with not only the concept, but I'm familiar with the unit. The Kangen unit is one of the premier units. Very expensive unit, but no, alkalizing water is a good thing, not a bad thing. And so I wouldn't shun away from that at all. You can literally dial in the pH as acidic as you want it, or as alkaline as you want, up to, I think, a pH of 9.0. Am I right about that?
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this. Now, you know me, I tend to overindulge on information, but as I understand it, you can literally neutralize your stomach acid if you use too much alkalinity. Is that true?
Well, it's the acidic content of the stomach is really required when you eat food, okay? So that you wouldn't want to be taking that alkaline water with a meal. It's a very good point you bring up, by the way, because you don't want to interfere with anything that changes the pH of the stomach at the time of a meal. Now, the reason that's so is that your stomach will not empty until it reaches a pH of at least 1 or below. And anything you do that changes that pH and lessens the acidity will delay the stomach emptying. By the way, this is the big problem with people that take antacids, and they're sold in droves, and they're prescribed by the medical profession, who absolutely just has a misread on this. They think when somebody has stomach distress, it's because of too much acid. I got to tell you, it's usually not too much acid. It's too little acid, and although it puts the fire out, it's a misread. The stomach does not get emptied, and it's turning out to create a problem when you lessen the pH. So it's a point well taken. You can drink that alkalinized water at other times other than a meal, and not interfere. It doesn't matter what's going on with the stomach when we're talking just about fluids. Okay.
Yep. Okay. Now, because I eat so many beans and stuff, I think I'm probably pretty alkaline as it is. But as I understand it, the very acidic foods are actually the meats. Is that right? Does that make sense?
That certainly does make sense. There's a way that you metabolize when actually an acidic food creates alkalinity. I'm not going to get into that. That's a little too technical, but be that as it may, just talking about a water filter, I'm familiar with the company that makes that device. It is a premier device, and I strongly encourage you to do it.
All righty.
All right.
Great day.
All right, Danville. Thanks for checking in. That's a word of the wise. To be sufficient, alkalinity is a good thing, except at the time that the stomach needs to digest. Be a bad move to do it at that point. Okay, let's do this, folks. Take a short break. When we come back, I'm going to switch some gears and move into this discussion of what was termed way back in December as the Watergate of eye care. I do so much with eyes right now. I'm extremely interested in it, and this one sort of got buried in an avalanche of other shows, and I found it. I had to go look for it. It was buried in. Never mind. I'll talk about it when I get back. Take a short break. When we return, the Watergate of eye care, point for point. Be right back. On the air. All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back once again to AIM Impact on Your Health. Heard here in KHB 620 each and every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 9. I'm Dr. Dennis Courtney with you today, and as you should well know around here, we switch gears a lot. Guess what? Our guest today has appeared. Caught me a little off guard. I had no contact with him, and I've tried to, well, that's even unimportant right now. We have Dr. Lee Cowden with us. He's waiting in the wings. We're not going to wait any longer to bring him ahead. Let's say good morning. Dr. Lee, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Oh, Dr. Cowden, I'm so glad to hear your voice, and I'm happy to see that you remembered our show for today. I had already laid the groundwork for taking over the show because I hadn't spoken to you, but easily enough to switch gears to come back on topic. I've been talking about you all month and mentioning that you would be our guest today, and on a topic that I'm inadequate in, and that you're so intellectually my superior, this issue of energy therapies with a book you now offered. I'm so happy that we can have that discussion that we had originally planned for. By the way, are we catching you in your Texas home today, or are you out on the travel lecture tour?
No, I'm out in Texas, and I'm not in the middle of nowhere, but I can see it from here.
Okay, then you're exactly home where you should be. Dr. Cowden, of course, as a board-certified cardiologist, I've been saying to all of my listeners all month how after attaining such a high level of functioning as a physician, you chucked it all in a while back. I really enjoy that story. I think it does set the proper setting to allow you to move into the new arena of whatever you want to talk about today, and today's energy therapy. But could you give us a little bit of your background again to bring our listeners up to speed on you personally?
Yeah, I went to medical school in Houston, and before that I lived in arid West Texas. And when I got to Houston, I wasn't used to the humidity and all the grass and weeds and trees and mold and fungus and everything else that was in the air. And not too long after I got there, I developed allergic sinusitis, followed by infective sinusitis, followed by bronchitis, followed by pneumonia. And all the time that these illnesses are progressing, I was getting advice from the chairman of different medical school departments to try to get better, and followed their advice explicitly. The chairman of allergy and immunology, then the ear, nose, and throat, then the pulmonary department. And I just got progressively worse following their directions. But thank goodness my wife's grandmother came to visit us down in Houston, and she saw how I was suffering, and she's a school teacher and self-taught nutritionist. Took me to the health food store, got me on some nutrients, and I got well. And I thought, my goodness, I need to learn what this woman knows, and I need to take with a grain of salt everything I learned in the training institution after this. So whenever I had time to read anything, I wouldn't read medical text. I was reading nutrition text and herbal text and things on electromagnetic medicine. And I did that in my spare time between that first year of medical school until I finished my formal training 9 years later. And when I finally finished my formal training, I went into practice with another guy that went through the cardiology and critical care fellowship with me. And I did that for 1 year, and I thought, my goodness, I'm not being true to myself. I know that there's something that works a whole lot better than what I've been trained in, what I've learned in the training institution. So I need to set up a preventive cardiology practice and do that instead. So I walked away from a big ticket job and went to a lower price job, but I was so much happier and so much more content because I knew I was doing what was right.
That to me speaks volumes. To check it all after really spending so much time to achieve the pinnacle of your career. You're a much happier guy now, I know, and you're so varied in terms of how you've opened your horizons. We've already had you on the show talking about cancer on one occasion, detox on another occasion, your famous treatment of Lyme's disease on another occasion. Now here we come today, just to point out how multi-directional you are as a physician, with a recent book that you put together entitled EnergyTherapies. How did the book come about? How long has the book been out? Where do we get the book? And of course, I'm dying to have you assess a multitude of energy therapies today for my listeners. But tell me how the backdrop of this particular study on energy therapies moved into the arena of writing a book.
Yeah, well, this book is called Bioenergetic Tools for Wellness, and it is the third in the series of the Journey to Wellness book series. It was written at the end of 2014, and hasn't been out that long so far. And it can be acquired by going to Amazon.com or by going to our Academy website. The Academy website is ACIM Connect, CONNECT.com. ACIMConnect.com is a membership organization, so people that go there need to become at least a free member, and we would love all of your listeners to become free members because they can get access to quite a bit of free information there in integrative medicine. But they can also learn, what's going on in this country as far as alternatives to their broken healthcare system.
Okay, so the book has been out since you say 2014, and it was. I mean, I don't know of any books out there that cover the wide range of the energy therapies. How did you decide to lay this thing out? And did you have enough of a background in the use of these that you just started ticking through ones that you've already tried? Did you go out to explore ones you had never learned about before? Tell me how the thing took shape.
Well, no, I wanted something that was going to be very practical to the readers, and so I wanted to make sure that everything I put in there that I'd use myself on my self and my family and my friends and my patients. So I only picked the what I consider the best of the best energetic therapies for specific conditions. So the rest of the title, well, the entire title, Bioenergetic Tools for Wellness: How to Heal from Fatigue, Pain, Insomnia, Depression, and Anxiety. Well, I picked 5 of the more common conditions that people deal with in the United States, and then I put into each chapter related to those conditions the tools that I'd found in bioenergetic medicine over the previous 25, 30 years that worked best for that condition. And then that way the people that read the book can say, well, I don't have a lot of money, but I have a lot of time. So then they have a tool that they can use that requires very little money, but more time. And then another person will say, well, I have a lot of money, but I don't have much time. So then they can pick one of the more expensive tools and use that in a shorter period of time.
Interesting. Now, whenever you're confronted with, and you must be confronted with this question a lot by those who are just becoming aware of this thing called the energy terrain, that's a tough swallow for all of your medical colleagues that you went to school with and that you sort of broke out of that mold a while back. But whenever you get into the discussion of energy, a succinct and concrete way of describing that terrain and how you can use it for therapeutic purposes would be a question I'd love to pose to you to see how you answer, and just see how you've come to learn to explain this to make it stick and resonate with patients for sure, and maybe even other medical colleagues.
Yeah, I remind them that they use energy medicine every day in their practices, even though they've kind of forgotten that. Every time they order an electrocardiogram, that's energy medicine. Every time they order an electroencephalogram, that's energy medicine. Every time that they order a transcutaneous electrical nerve stimulator, a TENS unit, they're doing energy medicine. Just because they don't know about all the tools that are available in energy medicine doesn't make any of the rest of those less valuable or less valid scientifically. It's just they don't know about those yet.
Well, it certainly hits him in the gut, so to speak, when you're talking about your colleagues, that, hey, if you order any of those 3 items right there, you're already using energy medicine. And then, do you have an explanation for how it is that energy medicine works? I think those are tools to do assessments, and we're sort of getting inputted into an electronic device from the body to the device. Any way of putting it the other way, and how do you explain when you place energies into the body?
Yeah, well, that's what the TENS is all about, which has been around for 20, 30 years at least, probably at least 30 years. And if they watch television on the weekend and see the football players, they'll see about half of them have some type of microcurrent device hanging on their hip with electrodes attached to their skin or their back or their knee or whatever else has been injured, so that they can make it through the game. And so they know that it works because those football players wouldn't use those things if they didn't work.
So, okay, they have visual evidence. I know I've seen those little devices on the sidelines. I'm really involved with the microcurrent as a modality in my practice now, and that is taking a large part of picking up the slack to help patients where other biochemical therapies certainly were not successful. As you put this book together, I noticed you mentioned that you sort of picked the best of what you called the best, and then you took a series of disorders and then brought out the energy therapy that you felt was the better suited to correct it. So let's have you begin to bring this list of modalities to our awareness and our knowledge. What are the best of the best?
Well, again, it depends on the patient's condition and the depth of their pocket, primarily. So, for example, if a person has a bottomless pit for a pocket, they might pick the PMT 120, which is a very powerful electromagnetic device that puts a lot of energy into the tissues in a very short period of time. And so you can get resolution of pain in 5 minutes or 10 minutes instead of hours or days. But that device is about $24,000, so most people don't have one of those in their house. But then there's devices that are less expensive than that. Like the microcurrent that you use is about $2,000 or $3,000.
That's right.
Brand you pick. Yeah, and that can get a very similar effect, but it just takes longer to get it because it's less energy and it's more subtle. And if the person doesn't have a deep enough pocket to buy any of the devices, they can still use energy medicine. With, for example, TKM, which is the King's method, and that's just a light touch, hands-on technique to shift energy around in their body. So when they put their hands on two different places in their body, their hands are acting like a jumper cable to move energy from where it's built up in excess to the place where it's needed. The Chinese have said for 3,000 years that disease develops whenever energy stagnates in the body, and pain will develop wherever energy stagnates in the body. So if you got stagnated energy, you want to move it to some place where you need it and not let it build up to where it's not needed. When it builds up where it's not needed, it creates an inflammatory condition in that place, which then causes pain and other symptoms.
Now that is one that I remember asking you specifically when I saw you in St. Petersburg about this particular technique, because I was well aware that it's something that you had perfected its use. You've utilized it, and you broke into telling me that it's something that's actually taught to the people that attend the university. Could you elaborate? For me, I don't know what a PMT is. I'm going to ask. I do know what microcurrent is. This thing called TKM is one that I'm very intrigued with, and you say it's akin to the laying on of hands?
Yeah. With acupuncture, you put a needle into a place in the body to cause the energy to shift from that area to another area, usually where you have a second needle. And so when you do this with your hands, there's no needle required, and most patients appreciate that because most people don't like needles stuck in their body. And when you touch two places on the body at the same time, your hands are moving that energy, not requiring a needle or a device to move it. I teach most of the practitioners that I interact with how to do the emergency techniques in TKM. For example, how to stop a heart attack with your bare hands in 5 minutes. How to doctor with your hands in 5 minutes. How to stop an anaphylactic shock reaction with your hands in 5 minutes. How to stop a appendicitis with your hands in about 5 to 10 minutes. How to stop the ongoing damage from a second and third degree burn and the pain of the burn with your hands in about 10 minutes or 15 minutes. So all those techniques can be used, to shift the energy in the body in a way where a disease process stops progressing.
And we all have the innate ability to do this. I mean, I often thought of the laying on of the hands as someone with a special skill. I'm gathering from what you say that we all have the skill because we all have the innate energy flowing through us just as any other person does.
Yeah. So your listeners, if they want to learn more about those emergency techniques, can go to King Institute, KING Institute.org, and do a search for the educational materials on their site, and you'll find the emergency medical techniques. I think they call it EMT. That they can apply to their health or the health of their loved ones. And they can learn that very quickly. They can learn that in a couple hours' time. If they can't remember, once they learn it, where they put their hands, then they can, off that same site, buy a little wallet-sized card that you can put in your wallet that reminds you where you put your hands for different conditions like a heart attack or an anaphylactic shock reaction or an asthmatic attack or a seizure or an appendicitis, etc.
TKM. The KM is what? The King's method? And what's the T?
The King's method, yeah.
The King's method, TKM. Outstanding. Well, I intend to go to that website. I invite my listeners to do the same. If you can stop those serious, urgent medical emergencies and intervene in 5 minutes by laying on of hands, I'm unfamiliar with that laying on the hand. I will be going to the website to find out about what's called the King's Method at kinginstitute.org. And nothing else needs to be said. I'll be happy to do that one. Any other of the best of the best? We have PMT, microcurrent, TKM. Any others?
Yeah, well, there's dozens of others. You know, for example, about 25 years ago, approximately, I started using a group of devices out of Australia. The fellow that developed those devices worked with his father about 20 years before that to develop the world's first color copier, and he sold it to Canon for $2,000. And they've made $1 billion with it. So, a very bright guy, let's say that. Not a great businessman, but a really brilliant scientist and researcher. But he developed a device called the Magnograph, which could be used to determine the cardiac compliance, the valvular, the aortic valvular efficiency, the food allergies, the immune function, and so on, just by passing an infrared light through the fingertip. And that device is no longer being manufactured. The fellow died. He sold his widow sold the rights to a company out of England. So they're still manufacturing the Magna Field, which is an amazing device. It's about I don't know, maybe a $2,000 or $3,000 device, but it does not require electrodes. So you can be within about 10 or 12 feet of that device and get an amazing effect. I went and demonstrated that device one time to the Dallas Cowboys football team, and the trainer was there listening to the demonstration. I turned the device on and pointed it toward the Dallas football team and the trainer while I was talking, and I'd been talking about 20 minutes with the machine on, and the trainer just stood up, did a deep knee bend, and then came erect again and smiling. He said, "I couldn't have done that 20 minutes ago." And yeah, I learned that he had a back surgery the previous day. He was in excruciating pain when we came, and it resolved his pain in 20 minutes.
And that's called the Magna. What's it called? The Magna device, the Magna machine.
That's called the Magna Field, FIELD, from Magna Care, and that's a company in the UK, in the United Kingdom. Now, it was developed originally in Australia, but the rights were sold to the manufacturing company that's now in UK. And they have a smaller device that I'm hopeful that they'll start building again soon, called the Magna TENS. Now, it's not truly a TENS device because it requires no electrode attachment to the body. With that one, you have to be about 4 inches from the device in order to get an effect. But years ago, I had a friend whose son was a sophomore in high school and got onto the varsity high school football team, which was quite an accomplishment. And on the first day of practice, this young man broke his 5th metacarpal in his hand. We call that the boxer's fracture. And so they went to the orthopedic surgeon. The orthopedic surgeon x-rayed it, put it in a cast, and said, "You're going to have to be off of football for at least 6 weeks." And the father said, "Oh, you can't do that. That's almost the entire season." And the orthopedic surgeon says, "Well, that's how long it takes bones to heal." So he called me up and said, "Isn't there anything else we can do to speed this up?" I said, "We could put the Magna TENS on it and take a few supplemental nutrients that help bone healing and see if that doesn't speed it up." So they got the Magna TENS that day, and the boy wore it 24 hours a day on his wrist on the 0.5 hertz frequency, and took some magnesium and some C and some vitamin D and some vitamin K and some other things that help bone healing. And 7 days later, went back to the orthopedic surgeon's office for a cast check, so they took another X-ray, and this orthopedic surgeon came out with his jaw dropped. He said, "I can't believe it. This thing's almost completely healed." So What did you do?
How many days, doctor? How many days did it take?
Yeah.
How many days did that take?
That 7 days, almost completely healed.
7 days instead of 6 weeks.
The surgeon said, we'll leave the cast on for 2 more days and it can come off and go back to playing football. So he was on 9 days instead of 42 days.
Wow. MagnaField. That's a Magna 10s.
Yeah, MagnaField will do the same thing. A lot of people put the MagnaField under their bed and sleep with it at night. The device has a cycling feature so that it runs 20 minutes and then turns off for 20 minutes and runs for 20 minutes and turns off for 20 minutes. And when it's running, you have a greater tendency to be in delta wave sleep. Delta wave sleep is the deepest brain wave, the slowest brain wave and the deepest sleep. And that's when you heal your physical body. And if you don't have enough delta wave sleep at night, then you don't have enough REM sleep right after each delta wave sleep cycle. And the REM sleep is the dream sleep, and that's when you heal your psyche. So you don't heal your body or your psyche if you don't get delta wave sleep. So this device stimulates that delta wave sleep every other 20-minute period during the entire night. You get multiple delta wave sleep cycles. Most people only get 20 minutes 3 times a night on average of the delta wave sleep in a typical 7 or 8 hour night. But this can have whatever that would be, two per hour on average for all night long. So usually about 14 cycles instead of 3. And years ago, I had the MagnaField device, and my friend knew that I had the MagnaField device, and his sons fell in love with the horse next door. The horse got tangled up in the barbed wire fence and cut his leg really severely, and got a bad infection, and looked like the horse was going to die. And the owner of the horse announced to the boys of my friend that he was going to take the horse to the soap factory so he could get some money out of him. And the boys came to my friend and said, "Can't we buy the horse, Dad?" And the dad went to talk to the fellow, and the fellow said, "Yeah, I'll sell it to you for $100." So he bought this almost dead horse for $100. And he called me up and said, "Lee, I need your help. I need to save this horse." And so I went over. I took my MagnaField and went over to see him, and we did some muscle testing on the horse and found that the horse indeed had infection in his liver and his spleen and in his leg and a lot of other places. And we found that grapefruit seed extract would be sufficient to deal with that, and put that into his feed and hung this MagnaField in the loft above the center of the stall. And this horse was leaning up against the wall of the stall, sweating and just barely able to support his own weight. And all of a sudden, when we turned that MagnaField on, that horse perked up his ears and looked around and went over to stand directly underneath that MagnaField for the 20 minutes that it ran. And when it went off automatically after 20 minutes, the horse looked around again in a puzzled way and then went over and leaned up against the edge of the stall again. After 20 minutes, it came back on, and he perked his ears up and went under and stood underneath the MagnaField again for another 20 minutes. And within about a week or two, the horse was completely well.
MagnaField, intriguing. I've never heard of the device before. You say they are available to purchase, I guess, from the UK, huh?
Yeah, you can go into the UK website and buy it. It's MagnaCare, MagnaCare, and that's a great device. And there's so many more devices out there in the marketplace like that are valuable. I talk quite a bit in a book about the evaluative devices that are out there as well that just will blow your mind. The electrodermal screening devices, for example, or the heart rate variability devices, and those are all based on quantum physics, based on energy medicine, and the heart rate variability has actually taken hold in the mainstream in this country because it's based on electrocardiogram, but it goes so much further beyond that. The Russian scientists have been researching heart rate variability now for 40 years or 45 years in the Russian cosmonauts and the Russian submarine sailors, and they've learned so much about heart rate variability and how to use very sophisticated mathematical formulas where they plug in the various electrocardiographic intervals into the formula to do calculations that tell you things about the hormones and the neurotransmitters and the mineral levels and the Chinese acupuncture meridian organ systems and the Ayurvedic systems and so on. It's just amazing what you can learn from a heart rate variability device. And so I use that type of device every day as I teach practitioners around the world, because it's such a valuable, objective device to evaluate patients' progress and to see where they are to start with. You can look at a patient and say, well, they don't look too bad, and then you do the heart rate variability, and you see that they have one foot in the grave and the other foot on a banana peel. And some patients have said, well, I don't believe that, and it's not uncommon for that patient to end up in the hospital shortly after that, or end up dead because they chose not to believe what the machine said was going on. So it's quite a remarkable device.
Heart rate variability. I've seen them at the conferences we both have attended, actually, and I got to get this another look. I didn't realize that it had such a wide range of potential ability to diagnose and assess, as you claim that you say you use this every day in your practice and work with practitioners with.
Yeah, well, the all heart rate variability systems are not equivalent. Some of them have used just the most crude and primitive things that were originally discovered by the Russian scientists 40 years ago. And then other devices have used it. I wouldn't recommend just any heart rate variability system, but a specific one. The Heart Quest seems to be the most complete system that's out there. And they set their system up to where actually a researcher could do research with it, looking at very subtle changes in the body using heart rate variability. And they also have a lot of education about how to interpret their system and how to online education, how to interpret their system and how to use that system.
Now, I'm going to guess that your book goes into great detail describing actually names of company and products, and it appears like you literally can rate those devices which you feel are superior. And does the book take that tact in all of the arenas of these energy therapies? So that if somebody gets this book, they're really getting to be able to get a guide for how to shop in this marketplace? Think that's a fair way to assess this?
Yeah, we put in brand names of products that I think are the better products in a particular category. And, I don't know everything, but I've over the last 30 years, I've looked at a lot of different energy devices, and I got a whole closet full of them. Some that I bought and tried and said, well, that's not as good as what I was already using, and so those went on the shelf. But the ones that really stand out that I've used on a consistent basis are the ones that are in the book.
Now,
so a person can save a lot of money not having to buy all the devices that I bought and trying them out one at a time. They can figure out, they can use the book to tell which ones that I found work the best.
Oh, what a great guide! Once again, the name of the book is Biomedical what?
It's Bioenergetic Tools for Wellness: How to Heal from Fatigue, Pain, Insomnia, Depression, and Anxiety. So I wrote this with the assistance of Connie Strassheim. Connie is a medical journalist, and she's quite good at being able to put things into English better than I am, actually. And so that's why I teamed up with her, because I wanted this to be a book that is easily usable by the general public, as well as a good reference book for health practitioners that haven't had much experience in energy medicine.
We had the pleasure of having Connie on our show way back, and it seems like the two of you have teamed up in a whole bunch of projects. I'm always interested whenever you and she team up. You've done so much great work in the past. I'm going to guess this book equals, if not is able to even supersede the work that you've done prior. So I certainly know and aware of Connie, and actually look forward to maybe bringing her on the show again. She's quite a lady.
Oh yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. She worked with me on two other books that we wrote last year. That was the Create a Toxin-Free Body and Home, and that's about identifying, where toxins show up in our environment, not just chemical toxins, but also electromagnetic toxins, and how to get rid of those, and then also, get rid of those from your home, but then also how to get rid of the effects of those from your body. And then I also wrote the book, Foods That Fit a Unique You, with her. And the reason that we wrote that book is because there were so many books out there in the marketplace about diet, and everyone claimed to be the right diet for everybody. And I've never found a book like that. The best that you can hope is a book that'll work for 70 or 80% of the public, and it doesn't work very well at all for 20 or 30% of the public. And the problem is that most of the authors had a certain metabolic type, a certain health condition, a certain whatever, and found something that worked for them, and then got really excited and wrote a book about that diet that helped them. But then they failed to recognize that everybody is not the same as them. That everybody's got a different metabolic machinery in the body. Everybody's got different disease conditions, illness conditions, toxin accumulations, etc., that all impact the what would be the best diet for an individual. And so that's why we wrote the book, is to have a way to tell people how to figure out what the right diet is for them.
Connie Strassheim, I absolutely intend to bring her back on board, especially I'd love to get her take on this new book. I'm intrigued about this book. I think my listeners are equally intrigued. Let me ask you, this is sort of like the other side of the coin. But, okay, so you've told us what the best of the best are. You've labeled them in terms of brand names. You've given us the cost. You've given us the websites where to get them. Have you come across any energetic therapies or devices that just didn't, and I know this is a tough one for you, that just didn't meet up to the hype, and maybe my listeners might even be aware of the item, and you go, you know what, that one there, I'd be cautious about purchasing that or utilizing that. Anything in that category?
Yeah, I think there's some of those in that category in almost every major category of electromedicine grouping. So, some of the electromagnetic devices don't work nearly as well, for example, as the magnograph that we were describing earlier, because they have the wrong waveform. The waveform of the magnograph is a sharp spike wave complex. So when you set it on 0.5 hertz, 0.5 hertz means a cycle every other second, then that's not one spike every other second. It's a cluster of spikes every other second. And that cluster of spikes happens in a fraction of a second, but because it's a cluster of spikes, it looks very much like the patient's own brainwave signal. And so it fools the body, basically thinking that it's self giving a signal to do something. And when it cycles on and cycles off, it also maintains that ongoing benefit. Whereas a lot of the devices, for example, a lot of the square wave waveform TENS devices, you put on a place on your body, you leave it on for hours, and it only gives you a benefit for the first few minutes, and then after that, it doesn't have any benefit because the brain tunes it out. So, all of the devices that have a spike wave waveform have a longer action, a longer duration of action in the body than those that have. The sine wave waveform has even less benefit than a square wave waveform, and some devices that are on the marketplace have only a sine wave waveform. So, that's the one of the main determinants as far as what's going to be effective in the therapeutic devices. And when it comes to evaluative devices, we didn't even talk about electrodermal screening, but there's some of those that are nothing more than a Ouija board, which is not going to give you reliable results. And there's others that are very very sensitive and very specific, and will hit the mark 95% of the time or more. based on other types of energy testing. So you cross-reference different types of energy testing, which I've done for decades. When I evaluate an electrodermal screening device, I'll see what it shows, and then I'll do muscle testing to see what's really there. The reason that I use electrodermal screening devices is because it does so much so fast. For example, the Zyto Elite device that I use and teach other practitioners will measure 2 items per second for as long as you keep the thing hooked up. And I can't do that fast with muscle testing. I can test maybe a few things per minute, but not 2 items per second, or for as long as you keep it running. And so oftentimes with the electrodermal screening devices, you find things that you wouldn't have even thought of, that you wouldn't even look for. For example, I saw a rancher out in West Texas who had shortness of breath with exertion. And so when I did his test, it showed that he had a significant toxicity from glacial acetic acid. And I thought, my goodness, this is very odd. I thought the machine was wrong to start with. But then I said, well, glacial acetic acid is in vinegar. I'll ask him a question. So I said, are you ever around glacial acetic acid or vinegar? He said, oh yeah, I'm on my kitchen floor every week with vinegar. I said, really?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, 1 to 2 hours. I said, do you open the windows to get some ventilation while you're doing it? He said, no, I hadn't thought about that. I said, well, stop that. And so he stopped doing that, and the shortness of breath got markedly better. So anyway.
You would have never been tipped off to that if you hadn't had that device tell you that. So that's one of those things that it was only that particular device on that day that gave you that. You'd never come up with asking somebody about exposure to vinegar had you not had a tip-off to think that way. The book called Bioenergetic Tools for Wellness that you can get on Amazon, as well as at this website, acimconnect.com. Is that right?
Yeah, and I really want people to go to that website to become free members, because they can get so much more free information there, as well as access to some courses that they pay a small amount for that might be of very significant interest to them. If they go to that website and become the free member, on the home page of that website is a tab that says Catalog. The catalog is all the courses that are available on the website. Some of them for free, but a lot of them for a nominal charge. They can do a search on that in that catalog page to see some things that they might be interested in. They might search cancer, or they might search electrodermal screening that we've just been talking about, or they might search other topics that they have an interest in.
Absolutely, we're going to head to the website. I've been there before. I'm going to go back. ACIM Connect, and that's the American College. Is it American College of Integrative Medicine? Maybe. What does the ICIM stand for?
No, it's the Academy of Comprehensive Integrative Medicine.
Academy.
It's based in the Republic of Panama, Panama City, Panama, and it is a membership, an international membership organization. So we have members from many different nations, and health professional members as well as general public members. And we always want more members to learn what's there and join in with us, because we have a vision that we can actually take back our healthcare choices in this country and other countries. What a novel thought that you might be able to get back in control of your own health. At the time of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, Benjamin Harrison, I think his name was the physician for George Washington. And Benjamin Harrison said that if we do not include in the Bill of Rights wording to protect the health freedoms of the people of the United States, then they will be systematically legislated away. How foresighted he was.
Oh my goodness, how foresighted he was. This subject of the energy terrain and these various modalities that you've now championed. I keep thinking that the paradigm shift has occurred, that the biochemical pharmaceutical realm that we came from pretty much is going to be left behind, and that as we move forward, all of the up and coming gains more than likely are going to be coming from this area. Do you tend to agree with something like that?
Oh, absolutely. The pharmaceutical industry doesn't want it to happen because they're making billions of dollars every year off of the unknowing and unwitting American public and even the public of other countries. But the medicine of the future is definitely electromedicine. Steve Sinatra, my friend, calls it electroceuticals. So it's not nutraceuticals or pharmaceuticals, but electroceuticals. Like that term.
I do like that term, and I think you're so adept to point out this is the paradigm shift. Great gains have been made in a short period of time, and more gains to come. I'm going to get my hand on that book. I'm going to ask you to come back, I'm sure, and Connie to do the same. I think we've just started our first conversation on this topic, Doctor. More to come in the future, if you don't mind me invading some other morning when you're home in Texas, okay?
Oh, that'd be fine. Yeah, we can if we can go back and talk another hour at least on this book.
Oh, at least. I'll set it up. We're to the end of our hour right now, and I got to say goodbye. I want to thank you for remembering to come on in this morning. Maybe it's because you can't get phone service out there. I've been trying to get you for 2 days, but I'm glad to hear you were here today. We'll set it up again to be together in the near future. I hope to be a little more educated when I speak to you next. My listeners, I know, will be too. Thank you very much, Lee.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Okay, there you have it, folks. Dr. Lee Cowden. What a great mind in medicine. All right, hope you enjoyed our show today. It actually happened like it was supposed to. I'll see you on Friday for a Rest Report and Up and Coming. If anything else on your mind, please bring it. It'll be an open phone day on Friday. Until then, this is Dr. Dennis Courtney with Dr. Lee Cowden saying so long for AM Impact on your health.